LeBron isn't skilled enough in the postgame, and that's his biggest deficiency, declared Shaquille O'Neal confidently on ESPN's NBA Countdown program, with LeBron James also present as a guest. If he had developed his back-to-the-basket game to the level of Michael Jordan or Kobe, he'd have at least 6 championship rings by now. James calmly responded, "Everyone has their own style, Shaq." O'Neal insisted, "But a player with your size and athletic ability should be more dominant in the post." Just as program host Mike Greenberg was about to intervene, he was startled by a message in his earpiece. "Wait, I need to show you something interesting," he said. "We've received footage from the NBA post-play camp. Shaq is seen here teaching post moves to young players. Welcome to the Famous Stories channel. Whatever city you're watching from, please write it in the comments below. If you're curious about unknown and never-before-heard truths, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our videos." When NBA Countdown began broadcasting, the tension in the studio was almost palpable. Host Mike Greenberg introduced his guests. "Today we have 2 special guests in our studio, Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal and Los Angeles Lakers superstar LeBron James." The cameras showed the 2 basketball legends. Shaquille O'Neal, standing 7'1", wearing a gray suit, was one of the most dominant centers in NBA history with 4 championships and 3 Finals MVPs. LeBron James, in a navy blue suit, remained one of the league's most dominant players despite being in his 20th NBA season. This special meeting had been discussed in the basketball world for days. Experts on sports channels had been debating this moment when the 2 legends would come face to face, and millions of basketball fans on social media were eagerly waiting for the program to start. In recent weeks, O'Neal had criticized LeBron James's post-game on various programs, claiming that this modern NBA superstar doesn't use his full potential when playing close to the basket. When the program began, the first half hour was spent on routine NBA talk. Views were shared about teams in the playoff race, MVP candidates, and the upcoming trade deadline. O'Neal and James made professional comments on these topics, but the hidden tension between them affected the atmosphere in the studio. Greenberg skillfully moderated, slowly steering the conversation toward the main debate. Finally, Greenberg opened the topic. "Shaq, in the past few weeks, you've made some comments about LeBron's post-game on various programs. Could you elaborate on your views? Now that LeBron is here, perhaps you'll have a chance to discuss this directly." There was a momentary silence in the studio. The cameras turned to O'Neal, then quickly shifted to capture James's reaction. Millions of viewers were ready to watch this rare confrontation. O'Neal leaned forward, folding his hands. "Yes, Mike, I always try to be honest. LeBron James is one of the greatest players in modern NBA, perhaps the greatest of all time, but I see an area in his game that could be improved." Stephen A. Smith immediately interjected. "What's that area, Shaq?" O'Neal continued, "LeBron isn't skilled enough in the postgame, and that's his biggest deficiency. When you look at his physical attributes, his height, strength, athleticism, he should have been much more dominant near the basket. If he had developed his back-to-the-basket game to the level of Michael Jordan or Kobe, he'd have at least 6 championship rings by now." The tension in the studio immediately increased. O'Neal's direct criticism was something many basketball analysts thought but hesitated to say to LeBron's face. The cameras quickly turned to James. The Lakers superstar smiled slightly upon hearing this criticism, but the look in his eyes showed the words had affected him. James calmly responded, "Everyone has their own style, Shaq. You were dominant in the post. That was your playing style. My game is built more on versatility, scoring, passing, defense. My post game isn't completely lacking, it's just one part of my game." O'Neal insisted, "But a player with your size and athletic ability should be more dominant in the post. Someone with your physical attributes could find easy points by using post positions more in every game. That's the deficiency in your game." As O'Neal criticized LeBron's post-game, everyone in the studio held their breath watching. Such direct comparisons were usually made after players retired. It was rare to say them to an active superstar's face. Michael Wilbon intervened. "Shaq, LeBron has played with high shooting percentages throughout his career. Perhaps the reason he doesn't focus more on post-play is that he's already an efficient player." O'Neal shook his head. "Efficiency is important, but championships are more important. If LeBron had devoted more time to his post-game, it would have been impossible for defenses to stop him. I think this is the biggest what-if question in his career." O'Neal's words brought up a topic long debated in the basketball community. LeBron James was recognized as one of the most versatile players of all time, but some old-school basketball thinkers argued that he didn't master post-game techniques to the same degree as legends like Jordan and Kobe. Greenberg wanted to deepen the discussion. LeBron, how do you respond to Shaq's criticism? You've frequently encountered such comments throughout your career. James leaned forward. Listen, Shaq, your playing style and my playing style are different. You were dominant in the post. That was your strength. My game has always been built on versatility. I've worked to develop my post game, but every player has their own unique style. My approach has won me 4 championships, which isn't a small achievement. James's calm and measured response showed the media skills he had developed throughout his career. He avoided direct confrontation while gently reminding everyone of his own achievements. O'Neal continued, 4 championships are great, but with your talents it could have been 6 or 7. Remember Michael Jordan's back-to-the-basket game. Remember Kobe's post game. They were physically less talented than you, but they were much more effective in post positions. O'Neal was trying to emphasize LeBron's deficiency in this area by citing the post-game examples of legends like Jordan and Kobe. This was a frequently discussed topic in the basketball community. LeBron's physical dominance and athletic ability were undeniable, but he received some criticism regarding technical post moves. James remained calm. My post game isn't bad, Shaq. I especially developed it when I was in Miami. Maybe not at your level, nobody is at your level, but effective. Stephen A. Smith wanted to bring a different dimension to the discussion. Shaq, don't you think LeBron's playing style is more suited to the changing NBA? In the modern NBA, even centers shoot from beyond the three-point line. Post play isn't as central as it used to be. O'Neal immediately responded, the modern NBA has forgotten post play, that's why it's like this. If a superstar like LeBron had been more dominant near the basket, the entire league could have returned to post play. He's a player powerful enough to change the trend. Wilbon deepened the discussion. Well, Shaq, what do you think LeBron should do to improve his post game? What specific moves should he focus on? Just as O'Neal was about to answer this question, there was an unexpected development in the studio. Someone from the production team hurriedly entered the studio and handed a tablet to program host Mike Greenberg. Such live interventions were quite rare in the television world and usually indicated an important development. Greenberg took the tablet, looked at the screen, and his facial expression suddenly changed. It was a mixture of surprise and perhaps excitement. Wait, I need to show you something interesting, said Greenberg, appearing startled by a message in his earpiece. We've received footage from the NBA post-play camp. Shaq is seen here teaching post moves to young players. There was silence in the studio. O'Neal's facial expression suddenly changed, his brows furrowed, his eyes filled with concern. James leaned forward curiously, trying to look at the tablet in Greenberg's hand. What video is this? Asked O'Neal, his voice more tense than before. This sudden change caught everyone's attention in the studio. Greenberg looked at the tablet once more. The footage comes from the NBA's post-play development camp in Miami last summer. You're seen here teaching post moves to young players and talking about LeBron James. The tension in the studio suddenly escalated. Millions of viewers held their breath, wondering where this unexpected development would lead. O'Neal shifted uncomfortably. I talked about many players at that camp. Without knowing the context, O'Neal's defensive attitude suggested that what he said in the video might contradict the views he had just expressed on the program. Such inconsistencies were one of the biggest fears of analysts in sports media. When words spoken behind the camera contradicted their public positions, Smith intervened. Come on, Shaq, let's see the video. You just made some pretty harsh comments about LeBron. If this video confirms your views, there shouldn't be a problem showing it, right? Smith's direct questioning had cornered O'Neal. Refusing would give the impression he had something to hide. Accepting would mean acknowledging a potential contradiction. O'Neal hesitated. This was a professional training camp. My comments there were for educational purposes, but maintaining his professional demeanor, Greenberg asked, Shaq, do you give us permission to broadcast this video? It might be interesting for our viewers. The hesitation on O'Neal's face suggested to everyone in the studio and millions of viewers that what he said in the video might contradict his current position. O'Neal felt cornered. Refusing would make it seem like he had something to hide. Fine, show it, he finally said, with obvious tension in his voice. Greenberg signaled the production team. Let's bring this video to the screen. The monitors in the studio went dark. Then the familiar image of the NBA's training facility in Miami appeared. The video quality was professional. It was the NBA's own training footage. In the video, Shaquille O'Neal was seen working on post moves with a group of young NBA players. O'Neal was demonstrating various post moves, then watching and correcting them. As part of the camp, O'Neal was explaining post-game concepts to young players. In a classroom within the facility, he stood in front of a whiteboard, explaining the key points of being effective from the post position. Being strong in the post position isn't just about physical attributes, O'Neal was saying in the video, his voice clearly audible. It also requires technique, timing, and basketball IQ. I'll give you an excellent example of this. LeBron James. There was a shocked silence in the studio. O'Neal's face reddened. James's eyes widened. Millions of viewers were watching this dramatic moment unfolding live. Could what O'Neal said about LeBron at the camp completely contradict the position he had been defending until now? The O'Neal in the video continued. Most people don't think of LeBron as a post player, but his development in post play in recent years has been remarkable. He especially worked to develop his post moves during his Miami years and second Cleveland period. These words were in sharp contrast to what O'Neal had just said in the studio. While describing LeBron's development in post play as remarkable at the camp, he had characterized him as inadequate in this area during the live broadcast. As the video continued, O'Neal was seen turning to a whiteboard and writing James's postgame with bullet points. Strong base stance, good balance, effective left shoulder drop step, solid hook shot, excellent passing vision. Everyone in the studio was watching the screen in astonishment. The LeBron James that O'Neal was describing to students at the camp seemed completely different from the player he had just criticized. This contradiction provided a striking example of the authenticity problem in sports media. The most impressive aspect of LeBron's postgame is that he uses it not just to find scores, but to read the game, continued the O'Neal in the video. His ability to find open teammates when double-teamed in a position close to the basket is extraordinary. This is a perfect example of thinking team-oriented, not just score-oriented, in post-play. The O'Neal in the video seemed to be contradicting the O'Neal in the studio. The camera caught the slight smile on LeBron James's face. James characteristically avoided acting triumphant over his colleague's contradictory situation, but he clearly appreciated the irony of the situation. As the video continued, a young player asked O'Neal a question. Does LeBron need to improve his postgame? This question was at the very center of the discussion in the studio, and now everyone was holding their breath to hear O'Neal's answer at the camp. O'Neal responded, "Every player can continue to develop in all areas. LeBron has a few moves he could improve in post-play, especially right-hand hook shot and counter moves. But overall, his post-game is very solid and efficient. It's perfectly integrated into his versatile playing style." This answer completely contradicted O'Neal's critical position in the studio. He had characterized LeBron's post-game as very solid and efficient at the camp, while calling it inadequate on the live broadcast. O'Neal turned to another young player in the video. "Watch LeBron and learn from him. He wisely uses his physical abilities in the post position. He doesn't always think about scoring. Sometimes he uses the post position to slow down the game, get his teammates involved, or manipulate the defense. This is an indication of high-level basketball intelligence." The video ended here. There was complete silence in the studio. The cameras captured the shocked expression on Shaquille O'Neal's face. LeBron James appeared surprised but also had a slight smile on his face. Millions of viewers had witnessed a rare moment in sports media. The revelation that an analyst's position defended in public completely contradicted what he said in private settings. Greenberg broke the silence. "Shaq, it seems that what you said about LeBron James's post-game at the NBA post-play camp contradicts what you just said on our program. What do you have to say about this?" This question raised a broader debate about the reliability and consistency of sports media. How often did analysts defend positions they didn't really believe in for ratings and attention? The blood had drained from O'Neal's face. These are things said in a different context," he said hesitantly. "As a coach, I use different approaches when training young players." O'Neal's defense seemed weak. It was difficult to explain the contradiction between showcasing LeBron as an example for post-play at the camp, while highlighting his deficiencies in this area on television. Smith started laughing. "Different context. Shaq, in the video you're praising LeBron's postgame. You use words like remarkable, development, perfect, but now you're saying his postgame is inadequate." Wilbon added, "This is interesting, Shaq. When training young players, you showcase LeBron as an example for post-play, but in a public program you say he's deficient in this area. There's a big contradiction between these two views." O'Neal went on the defensive. "Look, coaching is a complex job. You need to deliver different messages in different situations. I may have emphasized LeBron's positive aspects to motivate young players, but that doesn't change my general view about his postgame." This defense didn't seem to convince anyone in the studio. O'Neal was rapidly losing credibility as he tried to defend two completely different positions. James had been watching silently until now. It was his turn to speak. Everyone in the studio and millions of viewers were wondering what he would say. James's reaction, how he would handle this contradiction, would say a lot about his character and professionalism. "You know," James said in a calm voice, "I've been in this league for 20 years. I've seen a lot, heard a lot, but today you really surprised me, Shaq." James's tone wasn't harsh. It contained more disappointment. In his 20-year career he had heard all kinds of comments about himself, but this kind of contradiction was rare even in the world of professional sports. O'Neal opened his mouth to respond, but James continued, "I'm used to people saying one thing in public and something else behind closed doors, but what surprises me about you is how contradictory these two different messages are. Either my post-game is inadequate and needs improvement, or it's remarkable and good enough to be showcased as an example. It can't be both." James's words perfectly summarized the essence of O'Neal's contradiction. This had become a broader issue about authenticity and honesty in the media world, not just a discussion about basketball technique. O'Neal interjected, "LeBron, that's not fair. That video was taken in a specific context." James raised his hand. "Let me finish, Shaq. You have the right to judge or criticize me. That's part of basketball. But be consistent. If you say one thing in public and something else in private settings, your credibility suffers." James's words were a message not just to O'Neal but to the entire sports media. Millions of viewers were wondering whether their favorite analysts were defending what they truly believed or exaggerated positions for ratings. There was a tense silence in the studio. O'Neal lowered his eyes, seemingly crushed under the weight of James's words. Rarely cornered throughout his career, O'Neal now faced a difficult situation. He had been caught by his own words. Greenberg, in an effort to manage the situation, intervened. "This is certainly an interesting situation. Shaq, what is your true opinion about LeBron's post-game? What you said at the NBA camp, or what you said here today?" This question forced O'Neal to choose between two options. Either he would maintain his public criticism and try to explain his words at the camp, or he would reveal his true view and reevaluate his role in the media. O'Neal took a deep breath. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled slightly. "I guess I've been caught," he said, with unexpected honesty. "The truth is, LeBron's post-game has really developed in recent years. What I said at the camp reflects my true thoughts about his development in this area." Everyone in the studio looked at O'Neal in astonishment. This honest admission was an unexpected turn. It was a rare moment in sports media history for a legend like O'Neal to make such an admission on live television. "Then why do you speak differently in public?" asked Wilbon. This question touched on the heart of how sports media operates. Why did analysts, former players, and coaches sometimes take extreme positions on television and radio? O'Neal shrugged. "In the basketball world, you sometimes take on different roles. As an analyst, we sometimes express more critical, sharper views to create debate, to attract attention. Perhaps I shouldn't have been so open." O'Neal's confession provided a rare glimpse behind the curtain of sports media. For viewers who thought heated debates on television programs were sometimes exaggerated for ratings, this was like a confirmation. James nodded slightly at O'Neal's honest admission. "I appreciate that, Shaq. Thank you for your honesty. A lot of games are played in the basketball world. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish what's real and what's for show." James's mature response showed the media skills he had developed throughout his career. Instead of acting triumphant, he placed the situation in a broader context. This wasn't just an issue between him and O'Neal, it was an example of how the entire sports media operates. Greenberg wanted to make the most of this unexpected moment of reconciliation. "Shaq, would you now share your true opinion about LeBron's post-game in front of the cameras?" With complete honesty, this was an opportunity for O'Neal to express his true thoughts and regain his credibility. Everyone in the studio and millions of viewers wanted to hear his real assessment. O'Neal hesitated for a moment, then looked at James. LeBron's post-game has significantly improved throughout his career. It was particularly impressive during his Miami years. He can both find scores and find his teammates in the post position. Yes, there are still aspects he could improve. Every player has them, but his post-game is an effective part of his versatile playing style. "I apologize for speaking differently in public." This was an honest expression of O'Neal's true thoughts, consistent with his teachings at the camp. It also included an apology for not sufficiently appreciating James's post-game. James extended his hand and shook hands with O'Neal. "That's all you needed to say, big fella?" The tension in the studio suddenly dissolved. Unexpectedly, a moment of peace was occurring between the two basketball figures. This was a moment about personal and professional respect, transcending basketball debates. Smith intervened. "Shaq, why did you make negative comments about LeBron's postgame on ESPN and other media? Why did you advocate something you didn't really believe in?" Smith's question focused on the structural problems of sports media rather than O'Neal's personal integrity. Why did analysts sometimes take positions different from their real thoughts? O'Neal answered honestly, "Sports media feeds on debates. Sometimes as analysts we take positions to fuel these debates. Speaking critically about LeBron made me more visible in the media. I was invited to programs, I found opportunities to speak. Was it right? Probably not, but it's a reflection of how sports media works." O'Neal's explanation revealed a fundamental problem in sports media. The culture of debate and conflict often attracted more interest than balanced and nuanced analysis. This pushed analysts to sometimes take exaggerated and polarizing positions. Greenberg wanted to take the discussion to a broader perspective. This situation raises interesting questions about the culture of debate in sports media. How much is real? How much is for show? How can we as viewers distinguish? This question went beyond basketball debates, questioning the nature of modern media consumption. How much of the debates and analyses they saw on screen could viewers trust? Wilbon thoughtfully responded, "Most of the debates you see on sports programs are exaggerated. As former players and analysts we sometimes express polarizing views to attract attention. But as we've seen today, public comments don't always reflect real thoughts." As someone who had worked in sports media for many years, Wilbon provided an insider's view of how the industry operated. For viewers it was difficult to understand how much of the debates on their favorite sports programs was real, and how much was artificial. Smith added, "This is part of our industry. The debates I have with Skip Bayless on First Take usually reflect our real differences of opinion, but sometimes we exaggerate our positions to make them more striking. It's important for viewers to understand this." These explanations provided a rare glimpse behind the curtain of sports media. Television viewers had a chance to see how much of the debates on their favorite sports programs was real, and how much was exaggerated for ratings. James had the final word. "I have a message for basketball fans. Don't believe everything you hear. Not every debate you see in the media is real. Sometimes it's done for show, sometimes for ratings. What happens on the court tells the real story." James's words were a call for more conscious media consumption. They reminded that assessments about athletes' performances and personalities were sometimes exaggerated or distorted for ratings. These words went beyond just the debate about LeBron's post-game. For millions of viewers, it was a moment of enlightenment about how modern sports media operates. As the program was ending, Greenberg made his closing remarks. "Today on NBA Countdown, we truly experienced an unforgettable moment. The NBA post-camp video revealed the difference between perceptions and realities in sports media. We thank LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal for their honest sharing." As the cameras turned off, O'Neal and James stood up and shook hands cordially. The debate between the two basketball legends had unexpectedly ended on live television. After the broadcast, social media practically exploded. Hashtags like Shaq exposed, post-game truth, and LeBron vindicated instantly became trending topics. Sports fans discussed O'Neal's contradictory positions and honest admission for hours. Basketball analysts and commentators were sharing their views about the incident on Twitter. Former NBA player Dwayne Wade wrote, "We have to admit that sometimes we're asked to exaggerate our real views for media debates. Shaq took a brave step today." ESPN, Fox Sports, and other sports channels prepared special programs with titles like Shaquille O'Neal's Two Faces and Fake Debates in Sports Media. O'Neal's admission had become a catalyst for a broader media criticism and evaluation. On ESPN's own program, Pardon the Interruption, Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon analyzed the incident in depth. Kornheiser said, "This is just the tip of the iceberg. In sports media, we see analysts defending things they don't really believe in every day. It's a game played for ratings and attention." Sports commentators debated for hours about O'Neal's different views in public and at the private camp. While some interpreted this as hypocrisy, others saw it as the reality of sports media. The program had started a national debate about the reliability of sports media. Post-incident comments rapidly multiplied on NBA sports channels. On ESPN's First Take program, Stephen A. Smith said, "What we saw last night provided a unique perspective on how sports media operates. Analysts often take exaggerated positions for ratings and attention. Shaq showed the courage to admit this. On TNT's Inside the NBA program, Charles Barkley approached the topic from a different angle. "I do this too, we all do it. Sometimes we say things we don't really believe in to create debate." Shaq was honest, but this reveals a bigger problem in sports media. Barkley's admission brought up the concept of character acting in sports media. Were analysts reflecting their real personalities, or were they playing characters? And how could viewers distinguish between the two? NBA Commissioner Adam Silver made a statement about the incident. "As the NBA, we encourage sincere and honest discussions. Today's event highlights the need for more transparency in sports media." Silver's statement was a sign that the league was re-evaluating its relationship with its own media partners. The NBA signed billions of dollars worth of broadcast agreements with ESPN, TNT, and other media organizations, and the content quality and honesty of these organizations directly affected the league's image. Media ethics experts also joined the discussion. Professor Emily Carter from Columbia University School of Journalism published an article saying, "Sports media walks the line between journalism and entertainment. While analysts creating debates that don't reflect their real views may have entertainment value, it can undermine viewers' trust." This academic criticism triggered a broader debate about the balance of performance and authenticity in sports media. Were analysts real experts or television personalities, and what should viewers expect from them? In the basketball community, Shaquille O'Neal's honest admission received different reactions. While some players and coaches appreciated his honesty, others argued that fake debates and exaggerated positions in sports media were harmful to the game. Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr addressed the topic in a press conference. "There's too much noise in the media world. Sometimes analysts take extreme positions to attract attention. This overshadows real basketball discussion. I appreciate Shaq's honesty, but I think such artificial debates harm basketball." Kerr's criticism reflected a broader concern about the debate culture in modern sports media. Instead of balanced and nuanced analyses, polarizing and extreme positions attracted more attention. LeBron James shared only one emoji from his social media account, a post move and a tilted sign. This cryptic message was shared and liked millions of times. James was showing, as always, that he preferred to let his play on the court do the talking. In the Los Angeles Lakers' next game, after executing a perfect post move and scoring, James looked at the crowd and smiled slightly. This small gesture was interpreted by millions of basketball fans as a message to O'Neal. A week after the incident, O'Neal and James met courtside at the Lakers-Suns game. The two basketball legends were seen chatting amicably. Cameras captured O'Neal showing James a few post moves. This image was interpreted as a message of peace in the basketball world. In subsequent episodes of ESPN's NBA Countdown program, O'Neal began presenting more balanced and authentic analyses. He seemed to place more importance on consistency between the positions he defended in public and his private thoughts. This incident created a broader impact in sports media. Many television programs began to be more careful about the consistency and authenticity of their analysts. Some broadcasters reorganized their formats for more balanced and nuanced discussions. For basketball fans, this incident was like an awakening. When watching their favorite sports programs, they began to evaluate analysts' positions with a more critical eye. On social media, hashtags revealing analysts' inconsistencies and contradictions became popular. 6 months later, at a sports media conference, O'Neal shared what he had learned from the incident. "That day was a turning point for me. I realized that being honest with viewers is more important than creating debate. Now I only defend things I truly believe in, and though this may sometimes be less dramatic, it's more authentic." O'Neal's admission resonated strongly among sports media professionals. Many analysts began to reevaluate their own approaches. The formats and expectations of television programs could push analysts into certain molds, but the most respected figures were those who could maintain their personal integrity. This incident wasn't limited to just the basketball or sports world. Media critics and academics began using a similar lens to examine debate programs in other fields, news channels, and social media interactions. The difference between real debate and performative conflict became an important topic in media literacy classes. This experience was also instructive for LeBron James. In an interview he said, "I've always carefully approached media criticism, but now I better understand that sometimes these criticisms don't reflect real views. I continue to focus on what I do on the court." James's mature approach showed the media wisdom he had developed throughout his career. He continued to focus on his performance without taking criticism personally. This also provided an important lesson for young players. This national debate about the reliability of sports media led to some changes in the sector in the long term. ESPN and other major sports networks began encouraging their analysts to present more authentic and nuanced analysis instead of taking exaggerated positions. Viewers also developed a more sophisticated and critical approach. A year later, O'Neal and James appeared together in an advertising campaign. In the commercial, the two legends had a friendly debate about post moves, then turned to the camera and smiled. This was a powerful message showing that competition and respect could coexist in the sports world. Today, this incident, known as Shaq and LeBron's post-game debate, is remembered as an important moment in sports media history and basketball culture. Since that day, analysts and commentators have tried to act more consciously and responsibly, while viewers have adopted a more critical approach to media consumption. This became not just a debate between two basketball legends, but a case study offering important lessons about authenticity, honesty, and reliability in the modern media age. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. What do you think about this topic? Please write in the comments below. See you in the next video.